Hi, this is Dan from onlinebasscourses.com. Hope you're doing well. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play the Chicken. This is a really great jazz funk tune written by Pee Wee Ellis, but perhaps made more famous by Jaco Pastorius. There's a really great version on the Birthday Concert, which is a live album, and that's a really good one to listen to. It starts off with a soul intro. But the main head of the tune starts a 16-bar form. So I think just to get the structure of any tune like this is often played at jam sessions, and it's almost simple, but there are a few little bits that might trip you up. But what's great about the tune is that it just uses dominant seventh chords. So here's the form. There's a PDF there. You can download it. I'll put a link below. And we're just going to go through it step by step. I've also got a backing track, which I'll play to later. And again, you can download, I think it's 5 minutes long. So you can download that for free, practice along to this. There are a number of really common shapes that you can use over this, including things that Jaco did on the Birthday Concert recording, but other ones as well. But I think I'm a little more interested in you coming up with your own lines over this and not trying to sound like Jaco. So let's start off. We've got the first 4 bars you just got. This is going straight into the melody. Actually, in the normal tune, often you'll play 4 bars and then you'll go in to the 16-bar form. But we've got this bass line that Jaco played, which I think is a really good one to learn. There's just 4 bars of that. So I'm going on the 6th fret of the E string, that's the B flat. What I really recommend that you do is learn the intervals that you're playing within this pattern here. So let me show it to you, and as we go I'll explain what's happening. So we've got a root note on the 6th fret of the E string, that's the B flat. Then the 5th fret of the A string is the D, that's the major third of the chord. 1 fret higher is the 4th. Doing that with my 2nd finger. And then fret 8, I've got the 5th of the chord. Now we're going to be moving these patterns around, so once you have them, it's just a case of shifting your hand. That's the 6th of the chord. This is on the 5th fret of the D string. It's the note G. And finally the octave. Now, a B flat 7 chord comes from that mode, or that scale. That's a Mixolydian mode. And it really is the language of blues and soul music. It's very important that you learn that. Again, you can shift that around. So let me just play that slow. This is the B flat Mixolydian mode. So I'm going fret 6 to 8 on the E string. And then 5, 7, 8 on both the A and the D. And the line that Jaco plays contains notes from within that scale. So I probably will talk, like I am now, a bit about theory as we go through this, but don't forget that you've got to create a line that sings, a line that sounds like it's really in the groove. So we can't forget rhythm and we can't forget phrases. You can put little skips in, little ghost notes. So now we're going to go to the E flat 7 chord. And there are all manner of ways from which you can get from one chord to another. I'll show you a couple as we go. So this one. The bass plays a really important role in anticipating chords coming up. You can hear that we're going somewhere if you do that. So I'm playing the B flat, and they're just chromatically going from the 3rd fret of the A string upwards till we hit E flat on beat 1. From which we have that exact same pattern. It's an E flat 7 chord, it's the same quality as the B flat 7, so that means that the same shape, the same patterns come from it. And E flat mixolydian will work over this. Now just a quick word. We're sort of in the key of B flat here, but it doesn't stay in that key for long. It's almost a very simple 1-4 movement as you would expect in a blues tune, but then what happens here we just go down a semitone to a D7. We could do the same patterns. It's only just one bar of D7. Let me stick to this pattern for now, so that the root to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth, to the octave, that pattern. Now we jump down, let's go to the third fret of the E string, that's the G, G7. There's just one bar of that as well. Now we're on the C7, 3 bars of that. And then we've got that unison line. Now before I forget to mention it, when you download that backing track, I used Band in a Box, which is absolutely brilliant bit of software. So it's that you're playing with real instruments, but I didn't really have time to program in the other instruments and the drums doing those hits. It's a unison line that you play with everyone. It's a really important feature of the tune. But in the backing track, it just plays a held chord. So when you play along to that, that's sort of a mistake on my part, if you like, but it's fine. You can just play that. Let me just show you that little line there. This is a really important feature. So you need to play this as is, really. So we're going from a B flat on the 8th fret of the D string. Now we're just going down a minor pentatonic scale here. If you don't know what that is, it's let's go in reverse. So frets 8 to 6. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, 8 to 6 of the D string and the A string, and then 9-6 on the E string, and then down 2 frets. Just a really fantastic sounding scale that used a lot in blues, funk, soul, everything. So the rhythm is, I'd probably play it that way. I'd probably go 8-7 on the 8-6, sorry, on the D string, and then 8-6-4 with a little shift at the end there on the A string, and then 6-4 on the E string. Then we've got this really cool little section, the last 4 bars of this 16-bar form. We're just cycling between B flat 7, 2 beats of that, to E flat 7. And actually the bass line Jaco plays is just the same as over just a B flat 7 chord, but he is hitting that E flat on the 3rd beat, exactly where the E flat 7 lands. That you hear that in the horn section at this point. I'll just show you that because it's a fun thing to do. Also, it shows you some patterns that you can play and some ideas that I'll show you a bit later. But that's a B flat 7 chord, and I'm playing that 2nd finger on the 13th fret of the A string. It's the root. Got the major 3rd on the 12th fret of the D string, and that dominant 7th on the 13th fret with my 3rd finger on the G string. Really common way of playing a chord on a bass starting on an A string, a dominant 7th chord. Whilst I'm at it, why not? If you keep the root there with your 2nd finger and you make the just the 3rd finger go up 1 fret, you've got a major 7th chord, so B flat major 7th. Put it back to the original B flat dominant 7th chord, and this time move the 1st finger. You've got a minor 7th chord, so dominant 7th, minor 7th, major 7th. Really important to know the differences between different chords, and actually very often there's very little difference between the chords. That is a tangent. Let's get back. So we've got the B flat 7, and instead of a root note being on the A string, we're going to have it on the E string now. So this is the E flat 7. 1st finger on the 11th fret, that's the root note, E flat. Second finger on the minor 7th, that's the 11th fret of the D string. This time the 3rd is really a 10th. We've got that with my little finger. You could use your 3rd if you want on the 12th fret of the G string. If you observe where the highest 2 notes are within each of those chords, you'll see 12th and 13th frets, and then moving it down. So that might be a bit too busy, but that just shows you how you might integrate that sort of idea. That's a double stop when you play 2 notes at the same time, by the way. And how you might use the root note down here and then extend upwards to some double stops. It's just an idea you can use there. So now, this is where we might break away from how Jaco plays it. Hopefully you've got that as a baseline, as something you can use, but let's break away from that a little bit. Let's do something like that. Very, very common thing to do over a dominant 7th chord is to play the root. So I'm back on the B flat here, 6th fret of the E string. I've got my 5th. That's my flat 7. That's the octave. Bit of beginning of Billie Jean there. Notice that every single one of those notes I played, it's somewhere within that place where it came from, which is the Mixolydian scale. So let's just do roots, 5ths, flat 7ths and octaves. Now, I didn't have a backing track there, but hopefully you could hear the chords going by there. And I was just using exactly what I said I would. The root, the 5th, the flat 7th, or the octave, and mixing up the order of them and changing rhythms. So when you're practicing, you can overplay, you can play loads of notes, you can experiment, you can make mistakes, you can find really satisfying ways to get from one chord to another. But keep in mind that simple is usually best. And Jaco doesn't, I mean, okay, he does do a lot, but you've got that central bass line and then he's doing loads of things around that. So do experiment, but then make sure you come up with a solid bass line. So let's have a few ideas here. At the end of the 4th bar, at the top there, where you got the B flat 7s. How about the fill there? I was just using B flat major pentatonic scale there. Let's fret 6 to 8 on the E string, and then 5-8 on the A and the D strings, and then 5-7 on the G string. If you do 5-6-7 on the G string, you get that blues note. Funny thing about blues is that both major and minor tonalities can work at the same time. Here's your B flat 7. And the B flat Mixolydian scale, any Mixolydian scale, is a major mode. And yet, that was a minor blues scale. That works over the top as well. That was a little bit of Dorian, and that works too. So it's a little bit ambiguous, and I'm just giving you a few options that you can use for fill. So I was just doing that Jaco bass line, then sticking in a bit of minor pentatonic blues scale. Works because this is blues language, so that's why it's going to fit over this. I'm going to give you a few more ideas to work on. So it's that transition from chord to chord. Again, I'm going from the B flat to the E flat there, with actually the same line as I did before, just putting some octaves in instead. That time I've got B flat, I'm ending up on a minor seventh there again, and I can, this time I can descend from the other direction. So I'll show you that. Going B flat 6th fret, and then I'm sliding from the 8th to the 10th using my 3rd finger. And then I can play fret 8 and 10 on the A string. And 1 fret higher than that is that minor 7th, or dominant 7th. Now, this pattern here. That's a pattern that ascends, it goes up in pitch. It's really handy to have a pattern that goes in the opposite direction. So instead of going up in pitch, it goes down in pitch. And I think it's a good idea to have under your fingers a few patterns, a few licks, if you like, that you know and that you're comfortable with. So that after doing this quite a few times, you'll be able to automatically call on quite a few things that you've got up in your head, connected to your hands, and you'll be able to improvise. That's the name of the game here when you're playing a jazz funk standard like this, is just to be able to call on something immediately and just play it. So we've got, let's just say we're going to the E flat 7 now. So I'm doing the E flat with my little finger. Instead of going, go. So that's the 6th fret of the A string. And then 1st finger onto the 3rd fret of the E string. That's the G. So it's still the 3rd, but instead of going up to it, you're going down to it. And you can just go chromatically up. And that's still the 5th. They're still the same intervals. You can just approach them from a slightly different angle. The E flat to the E flat 7 to the D7 is quite an unusual movement of a half step. So one way to practice this is just to forget the backing track and to forget even playing it up to tempo. Just take one pattern and play around with that. So let's just say that pattern that I just showed you on the E flat, just now do it on the B flat. So we'd have to go to the 8th fret of the D string, the B flat there, to then be able to do that pattern. Otherwise, it's exactly the same pattern. All I'm doing there is just trying to get that into my muscle memory, try to get that shape really into my head. Okay, just to demonstrate, I'm going to put the backing track on and play once through the whole chorus, the 16-bar form, using some of the ideas. And if I play something, which I probably will, I haven't told you, I'll try and remember it and try and tell you what I'm doing. One thing I noticed I did just over that B flat 7 to E flat 7. I'll link to a video I did on R&B, Motown, soul patterns. They're exactly the same as these ones. So this is one move that happens quite a lot, going from the root note, B flat in this case, doing a hammer on from the minor third to the major third. I love thinking in patterns on the bass. I think it's a really good shortcut to learning these sounds. So if I'm on the root note, the B flat on the 6th fret, I know that the minor third is 2 frets in that direction, 1 string down. And the major third is simply 1 fret higher than that. Doesn't matter where you are, that will be the case. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going. And I'm going to the E flat, which is the same fret, but just on the A string, the 6th fret. And just going back to that 4th fret before going to the B flat. So a few things to do. Number one, visit the link below, download the PDF for free and the backing track and practice along with those. Make sure that you absolutely lock in the form, that you understand what the chords are and where they're going, so that you're not going to have any surprises along the way. So memorize the form and then use the backing track to come up with some of your own lines and use some of the ones I showed you. But I think that birthday concert recording is one of the best I've heard of the Chicken. So this should give you a little bit of help in terms of ear training, because if you understand that that's the root note, there's the minor 7th going to the 6th, you can practice that. And then when you hear Jaco playing it, the master, you'll begin to hear these a little bit quicker and you'll know what's going on and how it applies to the bass fretboard. And I really can't urge you enough, and do this with any bass line, to listen to the originals, the best, and then learn from them. So if there's anything that you particularly like from just 1 second of playing there, you can just pause and you can figure it out and you can add that to your playing. It will become part of you. But equally, don't become a Jaco clone. Listen to as many different people as you can using this method of using your ear as much as you can. And then that will filter through and become your own voice eventually. So I really hope you got something from that. If you've got any questions at all, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I do a video at least once every week. I haven't missed a week for a long time, touch wood. So I'll be keeping those going. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.